sustainability versus resilience, which one's going to be the winner? Fouad, which one's going to be the winner going forward? I mean, what is the most important agenda here? We've got a green agenda, we talk about sustainability, we talk about density, going to come on to what is good density. And you've introduced a new concept. How many people in the room have used the concept of resilience in relation to development? Cities. So you heard it here first, and maybe that argument between resilience and a different word may be interesting. So which is the winner here? Sustainability?
Resiliency does not exclude sustainability. It just adds another component to it. Essentially what the planners are looking for in terms of is how can you develop in a sustainable way, but also in terms of reducing your risk from natural disaster and others. Mm-hmm. So it just adds another set of parameters that you have to incorporate into your planning processes. So I believe the resiliency will win. But it's just taking over everywhere now in terms of this.
One of the ways of dealing with earthquake risk is dispersal, not concentration.
Well, not really, because contrary to popular belief, big high-rise buildings are actually extremely good for earthquakes. They almost don't feel the earthquake. If you look at earthquake damage, except for few exceptions like Mexico City, it's buildings between 4, 5 stories, 6 stories. Those are the ones that really get things. The high-rise buildings have a lot of inertia. They're designed for very high wind, and they're just not going to feel the earthquake. It's just that their periods and their frequencies are so much farther away from the earthquake frequencies. People don't know that.
Well, that introduces another interesting issue, quite unexpectedly, that mid-rise, as opposed to high-rise development, and certainly one's seeing not so much in the Eastern world, but certainly in the Western world, where we're redeveloping, we're going for 4 to 8 story blocks, and they are more dangerous. So, no, before, go on, they're more dangerous, perhaps.
Well, yeah, I mean, for most earthquakes, they will be more dangerous because the frequency is very close to the typical frequency, natural frequency of earthquakes. So there is an amplification of the response.
You mentioned about urban centers of urbanism. Do you think that centers of urban concentration are connected, obviously, with infrastructure connections, are a better bet in dense cities than really just coming into one massive space, one massive area?
Yes, because I think people, on the whole, like to live in suburban areas, and if they're going to be sustainable, then they really need to have public transport. And to make public transport sustainable, you need to have some clustering of density around the lines of infrastructure.
Linked to that question, and in question of Lian, we talked about planning and the planning aspects of that. I mean, just take it to my own home city of London. Do you think that actually the Mayor of London, Boris Johnson, should be put in charge of the whole of the southeast of England? Would that actually, it's a facetious question, but I mean, the boundary of the urban authority is a crucial issue, is it not here, Tony?
Yes, I would like to see planning at a much larger regional scale. But I think there's political resistance is always going to exist. In some parts of the world, they do have metropolitan planning. In China, it's almost totally de rigueur, but not in the UK.
That's why China is urbanizing so successfully so quickly, because it does have big urban authorities. And is that a lesson that we can learn in the West?
Yes, I'd like to see that happening. We have some experiments. Paris has a metropolitan planning region and has more successfully planned around transport. But London, in a way, cities develop naturally along their transport routes anyway. So a lot of what we say should happen in planning already happens as a result of the normal property value pressures.
Well, certainly my view is that you need to have strong leadership, whether at policy making level or even at the planning professionals, among professionals as well. You need to have strong leadership in leading what is best for taking into consideration all factors including now we talk about urban resiliency as well, particularly in earthquake or disaster-prone areas, not necessarily for earthquake, but also flood-prone areas like, in some of the low-lying cities. How do you deal with floodings, like Bangladesh, in Dhaka, for example? Every monsoon you face flood. How do you deal with that kind of situation? And then the losses incurred, and not only loss of life, loss of property, loss of opportunities. I think these are issues that has to be widely considered. I take the view of Tony that, to plan for infrastructure, you need to have to create that kind of economy of scale. You need to have planned, concentrated areas where you can maximize the value of the investment on those infrastructure.
André, just going back to your problem in Germany, just going specifically to the experience of the German authorities in dealing with shrinking cities, what is the prevalent attitude? Are they adopting a position of wholesale flattening of areas and population movement to create denser village areas, or have they got different type of policies?
So I think the vision of the federal government is to create the European compact city with an attractive urban center with reduced land consumption and a stable population. The one model which calls the urban islands to constrain the new developments to certain islands, but it is in practice is very, very hard to implement and to convince the people to turn down their houses. They lost their neighborhoods and their social environment. One thing is shrinking city planning in Germany often means attempts to make the cities greener, to reuse the brownfield sites, because there is no new need for new housing or new construction, and make more compact by reuse the brownfield sites for one and two house buildings. There is a greater demand, the demand for apartment buildings. Yeah. It's another story in the one and two family houses. So actually
the solution for you is to compact this thing, but also to de-densify it and go down to low density housing as a means. So therefore actually people will be rather happier.